This video is about ego and what is ego and egos of items, shields, guns, threat levels involving ego. Here in the bottom, this is my loadout screen, and the bottom left corner it says ego rating. That is your ego rating of your player. Ideally, your ego rating is basically your level of the game, and ideally you want your guns ideally as close to your ego as you level as possible, because if you don't upgrade, the damage of your weapon does not upgrade, if that makes sense. So every item along with your player has an ego rating. You must be of that ego level to equip that item. So you can be ego level 6,000, equip a 4,000 level gun, but not vice versa. So there are different. This loadout screen. There are different items in your loadout. You have a primary slot, a secondary slot, so you can use two different items and use your mouse wheel or whatever is assigned to switch between. You have things like shields. Shield is ego dependent. In your loadout you have, grenades, which are not ego dependent, spikes, stems, and vehicles, and cyber rigs. They're not ego dependent. Cyber rigs somewhat are.
Yes.
We will do another video on that in itself, because that is a whole other topic for explanation. There are your abilities. There are four main abilities that you've learned about in the intro, along with perks. More perk slot loadouts are added as you ego up. I'm not going to get into opinions of what is better and not better, because there's going to be 1,000 opinions on that.
You will get all the perks eventually, though.
Yes. So when starting out a build, like he said, if you decide you don't want that one, it's not a big deal, because, well, like you said, you'll unlock them all.
That's at like ego level, what, 4,000, 5,000, 4,000?
Yeah, some people think that if they pick the sniper or a shotgun guy, they're only going to get a certain amount of ego, and they're only going to be able to unlock that class. But in this game, it doesn't really matter which character you picked. You're going to get them all.
You'll eventually get them all, and you'll be able to pick them and unpick them at your leisure.
And you
it's
can
not
use
like
any
you're
weapon.
locked into it, and you have to respec everything all over again.
But yes,
you don't have to do that.
Adding on to what they're saying about the classes, when you start the game, the classes they're 99.9% worthless. Don't have regrets over choosing one over the other, because the class only affects the really, really crappy, shitty white gun that you start playing the game with, and you replace it as soon as basically as soon as you get in the game. So it has really no bearing in the game what class you pick.
It also determines your starting outfit, but that's equally useless. So.
Yeah, and most players don't run their starting outfit. So adding on to the ego thing, I'm going to show you this Hellbug Arcful here. It won't show it for me, but as far as the ego bump up, it won't show because I'm of a higher ego. But as you see right here on the top left, and I can't point the mouse to it, but it says threat 10. The threat is based upon the players surrounding you and the surrounding ego of the players around you. So for instance, if a 6K player is in there and only one 6K player, it starts at threat 6. And if two 6K players join, it bumps up to threat 10. But if like a 6K and a 2K joined, I imagine it'd be about threat 8, just as a guess.
So the lower the threat, the easier it is to kill the enemy. So if you're in there as a 6K player and the enemy, it's a threat level 6, you're going to be able to one-shot almost everything in there. But the minute that another 6K player jumps in there and it goes to threat level 10, it takes a little bit more to take down each enemy.
Yeah, Another thing about the threat leveling system is just because it goes up, it might be a little harder for you, but the ego on the top left beside your player name, if you see it in yellow, if you see a sudden bump up in yellow, it gives you that yellow means it's an artificial temporary bump based upon the threat of the surrounding enemies. And you'll see it go back to white once the threat is lowered. So it basically bumps up your player and your items. I'm not exactly sure how it bumps up the items, but it bumps them up to kind of make a balance to some extent.
The item is at your ego, the item becomes that ego. So if you're bumped up to 5,000 ego, and your item is at, and you're 2,000 ego, and the gun is at 2,000 ego, then the gun becomes 5,000 ego. If the gun is at 1,000 ego and you're at 2,000 ego, then it becomes half that.
Okay, well that was a better explanation than one I had, because I didn't know exactly how it worked.
And also bear in mind that certain areas of the map, it's harder to get the threat to 10, the starting area, and the Silicon Valley is much harder. So a threat 10 there is much harder than the threat 10 anywhere else in the map.
Yeah, that's also true with expeditions. So, anyone else have anything to do with, want to add anything on to ego?
No, just keep in mind that you don't want to keep the same weapon as you level. As you level, you just want to try to increase your weapon as far as the ego goes, as you said at the beginning. But
Yeah,
what it's really
and
saying is you don't want to waste your time with an orange weapon and ending up spending a ton of arc forge on it by the time you end up going.
yeah, I think weapons and leveling weapons in their video, but in a nutshell, just because you get one orange, don't get too attached to it, because it's going to cost you an awful lot of precious arc forge, which is hard and a valuable resource just to level up something that may not be too valuable later. I mean, this game hands you guns, and don't get, unless it's extremely valuable, don't get too attached to, your first orange, because you'll come across plenty of them. You may not think so when you start playing, but you'll come across plenty of valuable guns, and what you once thought was a valuable gun, you'll realize isn't that valuable, and then you'll say, well, I spent all kinds of arc forge in leveling this thing, and you find something better later on.
Right.
Yeah, the quality and what is and isn't a valuable weapon can be covered later on, because that's a whole video on itself.
Correct. Just keep in mind, just on your ego, just try to keep your weapons and your shield, your weapon and your shield, the same ego you are.
Yeah, but as far as upping that and upgrading the ego and the gun and the
plenty of them drop is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you'd be able to grab. You see another purple that happens to be 5 ego higher, or whatever. Grab it, put it in. Absolutely use it.
I think raising the ego of gun and doing all that in the salvage matrix is a little bit of another video. But if there's a 20 ego difference, don't level the gun up.
No, don't level it. Just if one drops and it's got a higher ego on it, grab it.
Well,
your early
assume
weapon
it's better,
you should
yes.
be replacing with the new ones you find, not using arc forge to level them up.
Yes, that is also very true. Just keep in mind, though, when you raise the ego of a gun, it raises it in increments of 100 ego. So if it's less than that, there's no point in bothering leveling it. You guys have any other final thoughts on...
Nope.
Okay. Cut this video right here.